You're listening to The Rule of Law, the educational podcast sponsored by Allrise, where we focus on the intersection of law, technology, and storytelling. And now, here's your host, Lauren Round.
Welcome to Rule of Law. In today's episode, we sit down with Matthew Hunt, three-time agency owner and founder of Demand-E. We discuss why it is critical for attorneys to build a personal brand on LinkedIn, why it is irresponsible to not utilize video as a marketing medium, and how lawyers can go from content novices to media-savvy creators. Matthew, welcome to the podcast. Where are you recording from?
Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Toronto. We love our neighbors to the north. Welcome.
Thanks. Where are you?
I'm in Savannah, Georgia right now, so a little bit a ways away from you, but that's okay. Happy to connect today.
Happy to connect with you as well.
We always start the show with an icebreaker just to get to know you a little bit before we dive into substance. So your question is, what is a book or show, movie, or podcast that you've been really into lately?
Oh, so many. What would I be without my books? They've been like my best friends for the last 20 years and helped me evolve. I mean, I think the expression always is, leaders are readers. I know it's a little bit cheesy, and you should read whatever it is that you're looking to resolve at that time. If you were more specific with the problem that you wanted to solve, I could make a recommendation on a really good book.
I mean, this is really personal to you. Like, I'm just thinking of a show that I started watching recently, which is Bear on Hulu. Have you heard of it? It's like
of
about.
Course, yeah.
I think I'm actually really late to the party. I know the show already went on to win awards and stuff like that, but I just came across it, and it's a little heavy, but the episodes are short, and I'm really enjoying it. So that's kind of been my release lately.
Are you enjoying it based on like the message behind what's happening there? Or like what part do you enjoy? I'm just curious.
So that's actually the part that I don't like. I don't like the heaviness of I don't want to give away the storyline for anyone who hasn't watched it, but it has sort of a heavy story underlining kind of the main characters. And so I knew I wasn't going to love that, but I kind of like the chaos of it. The organized chaos of it, and yes. I'm just entertained by it. I also don't have like a really developed palette for content, so it's pretty easy to entertain me. So I'm sure I'm going to binge this within like a few days.
Yeah, so I find people who like that show tend to be like usually leaders or entrepreneurs, and it's because they thrive in those environments that are exactly what you said, that are high driven, high standards with lots of chaos. And so if you ever work in a fine dining restaurant, which I've done, and with chefs as well too, they really are like that. Just think like Gordon Ramsay, Hell's Kitchen, like everything has a super high standard. If not, it's going in the trash, right? And everything needs to be done in a very specific way, in a military type way. And every night it's a new show that you're doing. So it's even like putting on shows, theater, podcasting, this kind of, you don't know where things are going to go, but you got to be super organized to show up and perform well, right? So that's probably what it is that you're liking about it. Yeah. This doesn't surprise me based on the role as a host that you are right here.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate that insight. And if anything, it makes me just appreciate the work that goes into my food at restaurants. So if I take anything away from the show, that's what it is. Well, today I'm really excited. We are talking all about LinkedIn, which we haven't talked about a ton on this show yet. And we're talking about this because I know a lot of attorneys, every single one of them, for the most part, has a LinkedIn. And just about every single one of them could use a little bit of help with kind of the personal branding, content development, engagement side of LinkedIn, which makes total sense because law school teaches you absolutely nothing about how to build a brand, become a thought leader, anything like that. So we're going to dive into all of that. But before we do, if you don't mind just starting us off with a little more about you, your background, and how you kind of became to be the LinkedIn guru.
Okay, sure. I don't know if I'm a LinkedIn guru, but yes, I'm a three-time agency owner. I sold one in 2014, one in 2018, and now I have an agency called Demand-E, and what we help is busy executives to create all of their social media content for a monthly 1-hour interview. The reason I evolved is because I built it for myself. Basically, most executives, their biggest obstacle is time. And so we overcame that by being able to do that. Their 1 hour with us produces 20 posts, and we post on social media. Our niche is LinkedIn and B2B businesses. However, that being said, I've worked with a lot of attorneys over the years and a lot of lawyers and law firms, and it's applicable to them too. I actually have dozens of attorneys who are clients today, and they're great clients that are super happy with the services, and they greatly underestimated how profitable and helpful LinkedIn as a channel could be for their business in many different ways, even those that sell to B2C. So usually most attorneys and law firms think that LinkedIn is only a B2B channel where it's selling to other businesses, but that's not actually true. You can also sell to B2C, and most B2C businesses have a B2B component to it. They just didn't recognize yet that it exists. And once someone points it out that it exists, they go, I never thought of that as being a channel for my business that fuels consistent, predictable leads and revenue for the business.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, on that note, I would love to just start with the basics. You know, most law firms have a lot of different lead sources. Old school networking, search engines, ads, referrals. Now firms are investing more in showing up on these AI engines, but I don't know that, as you kind of alluded to, a lot of attorneys think of LinkedIn first as a platform that will generate a lot of business from. So if you could just start with the basics on why LinkedIn branding and engagement is important for attorneys.
Yeah, sure. So most attorneys, the number one source of new business is referrals. And the second source of those referrals outside of their customers or clients are other attorneys. And so by posting on LinkedIn regularly and building your network with other attorneys, you've already increased the ability for yourself to get more referrals and to stay top of mind with your referral network, which is your number one source of income. Not doing this is actually irresponsible to your business.
Great answer. So if you're not already convinced that LinkedIn is important, I want to get your insights on some of these stats that you recently posted on LinkedIn the other day. And the stats were CEOs get 4 times more engagement than an average post. And in surveys, 77% of people say that they're more likely to buy when the CEO or partner is visible. So I would love to kind of just get your take on this, living in this world, working with these CEOs, doing some of this research. I mean, why is it important to actually hear from the principal of an organization, the partner of a law firm?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's really simple. It goes back to the first principle, which is why is your number one source of business always referrals from your customers and clients and other attorneys that you know within your network? Well, it's because of trust. We only buy from people we know, like, and trust. Well, they can't trust you if they don't like you, and they can't like you if they don't know you. So the more you're known is step one. So when you start posting and you start doing content on social media, including LinkedIn, it allows you to be seen more often, to stay top of mind, which creates more opportunities for you. It also multiplies you. So it's a relationship game. Like when they already see you, they're experiencing you at a one-to-one level. What you're doing through social media is one-to-many marketing. You're multiplying yourself by putting yourself on camera and posting. Also, people buy from people. People are not buying because your law firm is a company that they trust. They're buying from you yourself. So multiply you leads to more good things happening for your business. Now, you can get much more nuanced and deeper than that, but if you just understand that one concept, that if you're multiplying yourself and leveraging the thing that is already working, and this is a form of doing more of that without taking up all your time, then this is good opportunity or good time spent for that particular leader of the organization. Not only that, everybody's watching you. Like, even if you whether you have 2 other attorneys or 200 or 2,000 other attorneys, they're all watching you. And, so it's monkey see, monkey do. And the more you lead in the way that you need to lead that organization, the better things are going to get internally.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that point of trust, because I think we sometimes lose that in the legal marketing space, where lawyers really just want to convey how knowledgeable they are and how experienced they are, and forget that when people have a legal issue, it's often the worst time of their life, depending on your practice area, or the most high stakes time of your life. And so, of course, they care that you know what you're talking about, but they're going to be working with you on this really important matter for probably months, if not years. And so your job is to get them to like you and trust you. It's such a high trust industry.
Totally. And that's why we buy from people we already know, like, and trust. That's why the referrals work. And so this is all you're doing, is you're creating a referral engine for yourself through content marketing. And there's two different types of content marketing that you do regardless of where you are on the platform. It's short and long. They have different jobs. So short form content's job is to keep you top of mind, get discovered, and to bait people into your marketing funnels. Your marketing funnels is long form content. This is where anybody spends any longer than 60 seconds with you. Your blog posts, your white papers, your webinars, your podcast, your YouTube channel, etc. This is where people, you get the whisper in people's ears and they start to develop a relationship with you. So for example, I listen to a number of podcasts and I have a parasocial relationship with some of these hosts, even though I've never met them before. Like, I know them intimately. And the reality is, if they offered something for sale, I'd probably buy it on the spot without even thinking, just because they have such deep trust with me. And it's just because I've been listening over a long period of time. Now, you have to understand, you need both. The mistake that people make is they just create shorts or they just create long. Well, you have to create both types of content marketing. And then you have to put it on the channel. And then you have to also respect the channel that you're putting it on. So you have to understand the audience that's there. So if you're using LinkedIn to increase more of your joint venture partnerships with other attorneys, well, then it would be attorney type content around that. That'd be useful for them to increase more networking, more referrals. But if you're to put it on Meta, aka Facebook or Instagram, and it was a B2C thing, well, then you would speak to the audience or the customers that are there, that are the direct customers or clients that you're going to have. Therefore, the content would need to be slightly different and tweaked, because all content needs to be about your customers or the audience, not about you. In fact, most people don't even want to hear what your expertise is until you're able to describe their problems better than you can describe themselves. That's actually how you truly position yourself as an expert, is when you label the problem, and then you're able to say, here are the bad things that will happen if you don't solve this problem. That leaves breadcrumbs of evidence that you've done this before. It also makes people feel heard. They're like, oh, this person's been in my shoes before. This is different. They're leading with empathy for the customer and nuanced evidence that has happened. And then if you layer on some logic of, like, here is how I've resolved this for myself, or here is how I've helped my customer or client resolve this for them, or even imaginary, if I had this problem, like you see people doing on social media all the time. There's like a news clipping, Jay Leno, you know what I mean? His wife died, and he didn't have his estate planned out. All these bad things happened for him. And then he was in probate for like the next, 36 months. He had no access. He couldn't drive his fancy car, or, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the example is, here's how I would have resolved this for Jay Leno if he was a client. Like, you can even make things up in a situation like that. Now that creates a nuanced story that's like a case study that takes people through an experience that leads through empathy. And that's how you build trust. And so there's nuances in this as well, too. Now, if it was for an attorney, it would be a different problem. Hey, I bet, you're a criminal lawyer, but all the time you're getting family inquiries because your family and friends and your network don't know the difference between criminal law and family law. Wouldn't it be great if you were able to direct that to someone that you could trust, that builds your reputation? So when you do the criminal law, it does this. If you have someone that looks like this, they have this problem, I resolve this. It creates more. By the way, I have a joint venture program. If you network with me, I'll pay you an X amount of money. You don't have to get into this nuances necessarily in the video, but you get the idea. There's a process to attracting more of that business to you if you understand, one, is it short form content? Is it long form content? The channel I'm on, and who is the audience that I'm speaking to?
Totally. Yeah, I want to kind of get more specific on the different types of content that we just talked about at a very high level, but because I think the legal space, is very writing forward. It's very critical thinking forward. Lawyers are like, I always call them the Navy SEALs of writers, because that is what they do well. They have to do that well to be successful. And so I do see a lot of lawyers, especially partners, putting out, long form or short form writing content, which is super helpful. And Substack is taking off right now. So I think that makes a lot of sense for certain practice areas. But as you were just mentioning with YouTube and short form and long form video, I think video is still kind of an underutilized medium in the legal marketing space. So just taking a step back for a second, can you talk to us about the importance of video in kind of a general marketing strategy and why it's important for attorneys to express themselves through that medium specifically?
Yeah, it's vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe. They get to pre-experience you in 3D beforehand. It allows you to repel the wrong people and attract the right people. And there's no right or wrong with this. So, for example, Lauren, you and I could say the same thing to the same audience, but because the way you said it and the way you look and the way you show up, you're going to attract different people than the way I would. There's enough business for everybody, but it's a vibe thing. So it makes your business better. They need to experience you. You can't experience you in a Substack, blog post. Even in a podcast that's not on video, it should be video first. Everybody must get comfortable with video and being media trained. Like you have to today. You're at a disadvantage if you don't. You and your people need to do this and embrace this. Like it just is what it is. It's no different than learning any other skill. Like if you could learn and get your law degree and start a practice, then you can learn how to become media trained. It's just one of those skills today that you do, and it's super beneficial. Doing that, people want to experience that, and the more video you have in your process, whether it's from branding to marketing to sales to onboarding and delivery, is super helpful. And you need video for all those components. And the more you can multiply yourself through those, the better experience you can provide to the customers and clients that you serve. Again, I think it's irresponsible not to do these things. It's like if you want to grow your business and that's important to you and you have a growth mindset, then you will eventually end up having to do this. The sooner you do it, the better.
I just talked to an attorney the other day in the personal injury space, and he was actually a journalist in broadcast media before he became an attorney. And you could hear it almost immediately. Incredible storyteller, incredible communicator, video. And I'm like, you could be half as smart as another personal injury attorney, but your storytelling is just coming through so strong. It's such a good point.
100%. Totally. In fact, most of the attorneys that I've worked with who have very, very large firms or, considered successful based on the metrics that a business would be measured on. Not that means success for everybody. But for them, if it was to have lots of people, lots of billable hours, many, many offices and locations, this and that, generally speaking, they were more like, they're not practicing attorneys, they're entrepreneurs, and they were probably media trained and very good storytellers. Yep. Because they have to inspire people. All visionary CEOs, founders, presidents, managing partners, they have to be able to inspire and tell stories. This is just another version of that. And instead of doing quietly in your office, you're doing it publicly. You do both. You need to do private stuff internally, and there's still a reason to do one-on-ones, but generally speaking, those get really good at doing it at a one-to-many level and get very, very, very comfortable with being on camera and duplicating themselves and not using AI. Please don't use AI. I can already shortcut everybody that's here. AI can be used for like getting attention, like making the car blow up behind you and some B-roll and something fun that's like that. But as we don't want dead bodies talking. And in fact, as time goes on with the AI fog, we're going to create more and more authentic stuff. And as time goes on, you'll see experiential type stuff in person. What I call belly to belly moments is really those are the things that are going to win. So you also need to create those situations as well too. So a big CTA, sometimes depending on the business that you are, is also still running events. Like some of the law firms that I've worked with, they do social media, and then they invite people in to do events at the office where it's a long form version of talking. But the reason why they do it as events because they get to have before the teaching, after the teaching, the networking, the experience of someone in 3D. It leads to immediate customers. Like if you put 100 people in a room, at an event where, let's just say you sell, maybe you're doing like immigration, visas, and you're doing an EB-5 of helping people get their entrepreneur visa into the US, for example. These visas are very expensive, like $50,000 people spend to do this, right? Not including all the other costs to like immigrate to the US. And this is a big trend as an example. Go to Texas, go to Florida, lower your taxes, get out of these socialist countries, and you get the idea, or trending country, and they'll come in here because entrepreneurs are big freedom fighters, right? So let's just say you're doing that. If you took 100 entrepreneurs, you put them in an office and you did this training as an hour, versus doing a webinar, one is like the webinar is great, it's good to some people, but like you might get a show up rate of 15-20% and then a watch rate of 5%. So then you're converting one or two. But if it's an office, it's 100 people showed up, that's 100% show up rate. And then because you have the belly experience, there's more trust inherently that's going to be there, then you're going to have a much higher closing rate. You might close 30, 40, 50% of them. So it's not that you don't do one or the other. You need to do both, but you have to understand, like, we're going to crave that. It's the same thing with your video. Don't, just because it's easier to create a dead body talking through AI doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. You actually end up turning more people off. Right? So yes, it's easier. Yes, a webinar is easier. Yes, yes, you can automate it, but it doesn't mean everything should be automated. It doesn't mean everything should be AI. You got to have both, right? So, and this is a digital guy who wants to bring everything digital. I get it,
Deploying new software technology can disrupt familiar workflows and processes, and it often comes with a steep learning curve for the employees in your law firm. We get it. But it doesn't have to be that way. Allrise is a comprehensive law practice management system deeply integrated with the Microsoft tools and technology you're already familiar with. So no steep learning curve is required. And because Allrise is a modular software platform, you can deploy only the specific capabilities you need when you need them. Your choice. If you want to streamline internal operations, boost staff productivity, and deliver superior client service, then take a close look at the AI-powered Allrise platform. It's time to experience software innovation that enables practice excellence. Learn more at allrise.ai.
And I think, we kind of have established that putting yourself out there, establishing trust, putting video out, getting yourself out there is really important. But there's a lot that happens before you actually get to a stage where you can be good at that, right? It doesn't just happen the first time you set your phone up and record yourself. And I know you've talked about kind of the stages of building a brand on LinkedIn, and I'll let you talk through it. But spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't tried it, the first stage is really uncomfortable and really awkward, unless the 1% who is just a TV personality, and that's how you were born. That's less than 1% probably. So, how do you work with attorneys to kind of overcome that, given that it is so uncomfortable at the beginning?
Yeah, it's just like anything, like doing your first court case and you're nervous. And there's 4 stages to it that I found after coaching hundreds and hundreds of executives through getting media trained. And you basically go from being uncomfortable to then being comfortable to then being confident to then confident and having fun, which basically means you're in a state of play or flow. When you're in a state of play and flow, that's usually when you're doing your best work. Now, the only way you get there is by putting in the reps. It's no different than learning anything, an instrument, a language, a martial art. You're going to get your ass kicked throughout the process. You just have to accept it. And then you just have to, in general, you got to have at least the understanding of the rule of 100. If you haven't done a 100 of something, then you haven't really given it a fair shot. Or even data has proved that, generally speaking, if you can just get through the first 20 hours of learning a new instrument, the first 20 hours of learning a new language, you're already 90% better than most. Right? You don't have to be the best. You don't have to become the Joe Rogan. Look at it this way. I always talk about this too. Even Joe Rogan, he's a podcaster. Look how many reps he's put in. Lots of people aspire to that kind of status. Maybe not him himself, but you get the idea. Or even that he does Netflix specials, but he only does a Netflix special once every 2 years. Well, why is that? Well, that's because he's going from janky little comedy club all throughout the country or countries worldwide, testing a new set, which is an hour-long set on probably a Sunday or Monday when it's just usually other comics that are out, or just hardcore comedy fans. And what they're going to find is that they find 5 minutes or 2 minutes of gold. The rest of the 60-minute set just totally like sucked. Like they totally bombed, but they found, 2 minutes that are bangers. Well, then they add that to the set and they start stacking this. And then in 2 years, they have a full 1 hour set that is universal, that everybody in the world is going to laugh at, that they can do their next Netflix special. Well, if that's what the pros do, why do you have any other realistic expectations for yourself? Like, that's literally a professional. So you don't have to be at that status to be good to get attention in most of your niches, because like even if you're just 1% as good as like the comedians that do Netflix or someone that media in your niche, you're already considered the 99%. So like, you don't have to compare yourself at that level, but you have to set your expectations right. And so what I find, depending on your experience and your skill set and your natural talent, it can take anywhere from 3 months to go from this to a year, depending on the individual. It doesn't matter. The point is that you need to commit to it until you embody the skill, and until you can go from uncomfortable to comfortable, comfortable to confident, from confident to play, which means then you're in a state of flow. And it's just reps. And a coach, generally people who have reps plus a coach get there quicker. If you're doing it by yourself and you don't have a feedback loop, then you're less likely to get there soon. All smart people have coaches. Like anybody who's the best of the best has a coach. Well, get a media coach. Get a social media coach.
And I think that is so magnified in the legal industry, especially because the majority of lawyers aren't doing that media work to put in the reps and put themselves out there. So if you just get there to putting out any video at all, you are already, head and shoulders above a lot of your competition. And the other thing I find too is we're really not even looking for perfect content. I've seen a lot of creators out there in the legal space that are not doing anything fancy. There's this criminal defense attorney in New Jersey who has a huge following. I know we're talking about LinkedIn, this is on Instagram, but all he does is record in his car. Yeah. And he doesn't have a fancy background. He's recording on his cell phone. But he has a huge following and gets tons of views and tons of traction. And so this kind of, strive for perfection thing is, I think, just not realistic.
Yeah, it's normal for, lawyers to do that because they have high standards and they're accurate people, and they know the risks of not being accurate and being fact checkers and going really deep. Like that's their job, right? That's why they're lawyers and good at that. However, you're right. Sometimes you just need to embrace the suck. Also recognize people have been vlogging for a long time. Janky, authentic video is better than no video. In fact, we've even seen with our testing with paid ads and creatives that the less produced the video is, the better it actually does. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that it wasn't produced. Like our clients had a coach. We cleaned up the audio. We made sure it was shot with enough light on it. You know what I mean? Even though it looked like they were in their car, we thought through this very clearly that they were going to be in their car. And that was going to be the angle, or that they were driving, to get that, impression of being super authentic, right? So it doesn't mean it has to be lots of B-roll and other cheese. And please stop with the cheesy legal B-roll too. That as well too drives me crazy. I'd rather just use like some very simple font transitions. Transitions are helpful. Editing is helpful for people who are still learning to become media trained. Once you're fully media trained, you actually need very little editing. Because one, you're entertaining enough. Two, you're smart. 3, you're telling great stories. You don't need anything. That's why TED Talks work. It's an engaging story for 10 or 15 minutes. There's no editing in a TED Talk, right? So, but if you are not great at speaking yet, editing is your best friend, because it gets rid of all the ums and ahs and transitions when you're looking away off screen, like all the stuff you're going to fuck up. It covers up all those blemishes that until you're ready to do that. But eventually you get there, right, with enough reps. So, and it just depends on some is subjective too, and choice and all these other things, but simple less is usually more in general. And lawyers should be making TikTok videos that are like super high produced. Like that's ridiculous. Stop. You're not the dancing bear. You're not an influencer. You're trying to create influence and position yourself as an expert, not as something that's like that, right? So I could go on forever. You get the idea.
I get the idea. Yeah. And I mean, attorneys have all the tools to to talk naturally without needing all of the supplements, because they have the craziest stories in the world, right? I mean, just about any area of law, even if you're a transactional attorney, the personalities that you're working with, the circumstances, the late night, whatever it is, every attorney has so many stories, and you see them go tell it at a party or something, and it's like, if you just said exactly what you just said at this party and you put that out on LinkedIn, on social media, that would be incredible. So they have what it takes, but I understand there's, that hurdle of getting over it in an unnatural environment.
Yeah, there's always, like anything, there's so many excuses. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't know. I'm, insecurities, all those things. But you just have to sort of bite the bullet and go with it. And even then, for us, we figured out how to do it without taking up all your time. Like, if you have 1 hour a month, I can help you do this. And then you're going to get a feedback loop. You'll see it. When we do a brainstorming, you'll see it. When we record it, you'll see it in post. You'll see it out, and you're just naturally going to get better. It doesn't have to, be this huge thing. You don't need a studio. You don't need all these. People create all kinds of constraints and obstacles that never exist to get started on all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Just do it. Just like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it. Exactly. Another thing I wanted to make sure that we had time to get to was this idea of community engagement and social listening, because I think attorneys, whatever type of content they're doing, they put it out there and then nothing's really happening. And that's because posting content, even if it's really consistent, isn't really enough. So can you talk to us about kind of the follow-up and the community piece of LinkedIn, especially, that's really important in actually gaining traction and getting the most out of your content?
Yeah, totally. So in general, on all social media, you should never post and ghost, particularly if people are commenting or getting involved socially. Please get involved back. Also, participating in the broader community is helpful because you build goodwill. Also, remember, when you write comments and participate in different circles, different communities like LinkedIn, that is content too. If you put a thoughtful content, people will notice that, and it gets voted up underneath that person's content to all your first and second connections. So they're going to see your comment anyway. So that is important, but also you need to drive people to the DMs to start having one-on-one conversations and get them off LinkedIn into your marketing funnels. So if it's B2B, you're going to have some sort of joint venture partnership or channel partners funnel that you're going to put them through. If it's B2C, it's going to work there too. So same thing, you take them through a funnel. So there's lots actually people sometimes who are, like, for example, I have a family law attorney and they're crushing it on LinkedIn because one of the things, they deal with a lot of divorce, very messy, but also it's hard to support people who are getting a separation if they don't have money. Well, it's really easy to tell who has money. You just go based on job titles. Like, if you are a CEO and you have 100+ people working in your organization, there's probably money being made, right? Or if you're the VP in certain industries, like, there's probably, and what do we know? 50% of the population is getting separated. They have this problem. And so posting helpful content, they're maybe not like and comment there because it's not safe and risky, but they are seeing your content, and you can make CTAs to the DMs or the go to a funnel, which they'll take anonymously, or even moving into partnership programs. If you do family law, why can you not create resources and webinars and helpful things with the HR department? And then you have a joint venture partnership into that. Why can you not network with other attorneys who don't have family law, who have customers, and they'd be happy to partner with you, that you can do some sort of joint venture partnership? You both have lists and databases. You serve different people. You can collaborate on marketing, on email lists, on newsletters. The possibilities are absolutely endless. But the point is, yes, you can't just post and ghost. You have to have a funnel. And the marketing funnel must connect to the sales funnel, and it must make sense. If you're just farting out content for the sake of farting out content, it's not going to make sense. So first, you have to figure out, what is the strategy? What is the goal? What are the KPIs? What does True North look like? What are the things that we need to do to work backwards, and then start building those out? And of course, like anything, Rome was not built in a day. Neither will this. But, how do you do things? Just one brick at a time. And then if you give it enough time and have realistic expectations of giving it time to build, your cathedral or whatever analogy you want to use, then eventually you will, reach the goal that you want to have, right? And it doesn't mean that as you're building it, something doesn't go wrong, like, or you didn't get the materials, or this guy quit, or, the weather's not playing nice, we can't build today. Like, this is life. Suck it up, embrace the suck. As long as you're trending in the right direction, eventually you're going to get there, right? And so that it is important to note that you're not just going to post on LinkedIn and magically everything's going to work. There's way more nuances and moving pieces to it. And anybody who doesn't talk about that is usually an experienced marketing manager. They're probably cute, 21, have lots of let's go, but they're not actually going to connect the dots, and therefore you're going to come back and say, well, posting on LinkedIn doesn't work. No, you didn't make it work. You didn't have the strategy, and you haven't figured it out yet. You haven't found the right who to help you how to do that. So it doesn't mean that it's like someone saying search and job position doesn't work. No, you or the partners you hired haven't figured it out, right? There's lots of people who figured TikTok. No, you haven't figured out TikTok yet, or YouTube, or podcasting, or whatever. Let's just be honest with it. You got to find the right person or partner to help you get there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just made me laugh when you making the comment about the 20-year-old marketing expert, which Gen Z has a lot of good ideas that I don't. So I don't want to hate on the generation at all. But I also see, the goal for some people is going viral. And it's like, well, I don't think that is really the goal, because even if you go viral, that might not lead to any actual converted clients. So maybe let's have a little bit more robust of a strategy here.
Yeah, likes don't equal leads or business profitability, and it's nice if it happens every once in a while. It's a byproduct of something you're doing, but should never actually be the goal. And again, the goal is not to go viral. The goal is to serve your customers and your clients and the audience. And I see many people with very, very small audiences, and they make a lot more money than other people. I can tell you many creators who have millions of followers who are much broker than I am.
Yep, for sure. Common misconception in the industry.
Yeah, I don't care about that stuff. Some of my content has 2 likes. Who cares? But I can look at it, looked at it, and they're ending up in my marketing funnel, and they end up buying from me. In fact, most of my customers have never liked or commented anything on my content. The people who usually like and comment on my content are wannabe entrepreneurs who want to do what I do, but haven't figured out yet how to be there. That's just the truth. And generally speaking, that's the case with most busy executives and LinkedIn as a whole. It's not a platform like that. If you get on, other platforms like TikTok and whatever, you're going to see different things and a lot of trolls. The wonderful thing about LinkedIn is it's not very ugly. Most people are pleasant because they have real profiles and they're representing themselves in a business professional way, but it's not measured in the same way. And if you're selling to executives, most of them are busy people, and there's risks to doing that. They don't participate. So you have to measure success in different ways. There's ways of measuring leading and lagging indicators of success, but likes and commenting is certainly not a good one.
Yep, that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we always like to end with kind of a quick bite, practical piece of advice. So for lawyers listening that are thinking to themselves, okay, today I'm going to commit to carving out some time to figuring out this media training, video, content strategy. How do they start? Do they just do they write a script? Do they just set up their phone and just do it? Do they call you? What is one step they could take today to get started?
I think anytime you want to fast track something, find the right who. It's not how, right? How is slow, who is fast. And so that usually, and it could be me, it could be another partner. It doesn't really matter. Find your person. Easy way of doing it is, again, referrals, right? Go to some people that you respect and think are doing a job and ask, who helped you do this? May I have an introduction, right? And again, and if it's your direct competitors, that's fine. Go to other verticals that are doing it well. It's transferable. If someone's doing it well and they're in transportation, or someone's selling cars that do it, it's the same thing at the end of the day, right? So go to find your who, get help, pay. You have to pay because then you pay attention. And then when you also pay, you get the fast track results. They may not resolve all your issues, but they're going to move you in the right direction and get you asking the right questions. if you need to figure this all out, you're like a total bootstrapped individual, and you just want to do everything yourself and you don't like help and you like to go slower than faster. I get it. I am that person as well too. I love banging my head against a door and a wall. YouTube's your best friend. Like, come on, guys. Like, honestly, everything is on there. It's free. Like, sit down, teach yourself, and take action. So don't just like consume information for the sake of consuming information. It just becomes information porn, but like pick something, do something, learn something, do something. Eventually you'll stumble forward and you'll figure it out. Like everything. Like, how did you start your law firm to begin with? It was exactly what it was. You learned something and you did something and you stumbled forward until you figured it out, until you hit an obstacle in the business or a constraint. And then until you overcame that obstacle or constraint, well, then you stayed the same or the same size, or you couldn't grow. And if you went to fix a different obstacle, well, then you just created another one. Now you had two, and then you have to pick between the two. Is it this one or this one? I laugh and I doing this way because I know I've made all these mistakes as well, and I will continue to make them. And I do understand if you're making them, it's okay. But that's the gist of it. Go get help. Go to YouTube.
Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice. I always say I'm a huge YouTube user whenever I don't know how to do something, because I always think to myself, anything that I want to do, someone else has already figured out. And there's probably at least 3 people who have made a YouTube video on this exact topic. It's such an incredible resource I feel blessed that we live in this time and we have this for free.
Totally. Information is so abundant today. Nobody has any excuses not to be able to learn something or develop that skill, which is wonderful. I mean, isn't that so nice? Of course, there's like some things you can't learn without actually doing, and that's where the action part comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for being here. What is the best way for people to follow you and find more about what you do?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm only on social media on LinkedIn on purpose. It was a choice. It'll eventually change, but I'm dodging that bullet for as long as I can. It does enough for me for my needs and my goals right now. So you can go and find me. You just looked up, Matthew Hunt with 2 T's. On LinkedIn, you'll find me, follow me there, or you can go to my website, which is demandy.com, and that's demand with 2 I's at the end.com. And if you go there, same thing, you're going to find that it's a 2-page website on purpose. You can do one of 2 things. You can watch the 10-minute VSL there to understand who we help and how we help, and then book a call with me, or you can go to a secondary page that has 100 video testimonials of people who work with me who say that we're pretty good at what we do. And so I just want to have an obnoxious amount of social proof that nobody would ever deny that we're good at what we're doing. And so that's there. And those are the only 2 things you can do there. And often that's all you need to build a really big business. You don't need anything more than that.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you again, Matthew, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Thanks for listening, and join us again for another Rule of Law podcast from All Rise.